Nigel Farage is, of course, the great Brexit leader and a great host on GB News, which is available on flash.com.au, and he joins us right now from the wonderful UK. Now, great man, let's talk about how things are getting even more serious in the Ukraine, obviously deadly serious for everyone on the ground, but now the tectonic plates around this start to tighten as China gets even closer to Russia.
Well, that's right. I mean, you know, behind the horrors that are going on in cities like Mariupol, which is under constant shelling, and now at least 2,000 civilian deaths, there's a much bigger global game going on. And yes, China is in the epicenter of it. Remember, China, until recent times, very insular, not much experience of global diplomacy. And now they find themselves with Mr. Putin increasingly turning to them because as the West puts sanctions on, as the West begins, albeit slowly, to buy less of Russian oil and in the end perhaps gas too, China becomes the obvious market. Russia are asking China for military assistance. The Americans so concerned that Jake Sullivan, their national security director, spent 7 hours in Rome in negotiations with the Chinese over the course of the last day. China at the moment are saying, look, we don't totally support what Mr. Putin's done. They're trying to play it both ways, but China actually has to make a decision. Is it going to effectively support Vladimir Putin? If it does, it's going to find the West beginning to put sanctions upon them. It may well even find consumers genuinely start buying fewer Chinese goods. Or is it, and wouldn't this be interesting, much as I disapprove of the Chinese Communist Party and all of what they do, they could actually be the peace broker. Because who is there in the world that can actually get the Ukrainians and the Russians round a table and achieve a peace deal? So China could, if they play this right, come out quite heroically.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, two major parts of what happened today. Firstly, what you're talking about, which, you know, the idea that now we're getting close to these red line moments here where, as Jen Psaki, who, of course, is the White House press spokesperson, she said this today about China helping Russia with weapons. Have a look.
Should they provide military or other assistance that, of course, violates sanctions or supports the war effort, that there will be significant consequences. But in terms of what those specifics look like, we would coordinate with our partners and allies to make that determination.
And then again, the next sort of notch that goes up, the next bit that ratchets up, is that a missile, something blew up just 13 miles away from the Polish border. Now, obviously, they've said, you know, if one piece of shrapnel hits the border, then this is NATO, and then we're into some territory none of us ever want to go anywhere near. But today was a genuinely frightening day in all this, wasn't it, mate?
Oh, yeah. I mean, look, this is escalating militarily. And actually, you know, the language on both sides has been getting much more strident over the last few days. And yet, I believe there is a peace deal. I think that if NATO was to say, and Ukraine was to say, they will not be joining NATO or the European Union, they'll be a neutral country, that'd be a start. I think the contested Russian-speaking eastern provinces, if we said, look, let's give these guys a referendum so that they can decide whether they're Russian or Ukrainian, and that may mean that Zelensky and the Ukrainians would lose a bit of territory. But if they finished up with a more united country, that wouldn't be a disastrous outcome. And importantly, it would give Putin a way out. However much we despise what Putin has done, remember, to make peace, unless you're up against a complete madman who needs to be destroyed, normally you have to give the other guy a way out with some level of dignity. So I see all the ingredients, despite how awful it looks, for a peace deal. It needs a broker. Traditionally, that would have been the American president. This one doesn't know what time of the day it is and is unfit for purpose. It's only China. China have a chance now to do something good for the world. Wouldn't that make a change?
Would be extraordinary. Also, there's the consequences of now, almost 2 million people that have left the Ukraine. They go via Poland, but they obviously need to live in lots of different places. We have a conversation here in Australia about how many might end up here. But we have a scenario, of course, where in the UK, your Home Affairs Secretary, I think it is, had plenty to say today about this and a relatively open door policy here. Roll the tape and I'll get your reaction.
The scheme will be open to all Ukrainian nationals and residents. They will be able to live and work in the United Kingdom for up to 3 years. They will have full and unrestricted access to benefits, healthcare, employment, and other support.
Sorry, that's the Housing Secretary. So hang on. So if 2 million people eventually made it to the UK, they would get everything that he just said?
Well, I mean, it's just not feasible. It's just not possible. However, you know, we've had a spate in the last couple of years, and you'll remember this from 10 years ago in Australia, of people arriving by small boat across the English Channel, 90% young males, undocumented, and I've been utterly furious that we've allowed these people to come and to stay. There is a difference here, isn't there? These women and children that are fleeing Ukraine, they genuinely are war refugees. I want us, of course, to open our hearts up. Nearly 100,000 British people have said they're happy to house within their own premises some of these Ukrainian women and children. But to say we're going to open up the entirety of the benefit system to everybody, I think Mr. Gove, the minister there, might need to rethink that.
That is about as big a sugar cube as it gets when it comes to the illegal immigration side of things. It is unbelievable. Thank you so much, mate. Do appreciate it. We'll talk again next week.
Thank you.
Looking forward to it. The great Nigel Farage. The only place to find him is right here on Paul Murray Live.